Hey guys, welcome back to the Capehart 19-inch combo set project. When we left off, I discovered an open horizontal linearity coil, repaired that, replaced a few bad parts, and got a raster. Well, I just injected a signal for the first time, and after a bit of fiddling, I finally got an image. This is the best I can get. I had to crank the AGC up all the way. I'll show you what happens if I turn it down a little bit. It just blanks out. Now I'm feeding in a really strong signal, and that's the best I can get. So I checked all the tubes. My trusty Hickok 600. They all test great. So I'm suspecting some bad caps are really out of spec resistors. Looks like whoever restored this replaced basically all the paper caps, replaced some controls, and probably tubes, but I don't know if they replaced any of the resistors. I found one open one so far, and a few that were off spec, so I hope it does it, because we should have a lot more gain than this. Another curious thing about this is there's no horizontal hold control, at least not in the front. I'm thinking maybe they, with the circuit they use with the horizontal discriminator, that it works well enough you never need to adjust it. I don't know. There is a coil in the back, but it's not the kind of thing an end user could really adjust. So I am going to, I guess, start with the IF strip and go through that and focus on the resistors and see if we can get some better gain than this. So I've been working my way through the IF's tuner and first, second, third stage of IF and detector, taking out a lot of dog bones. So you see these insulated tubes here. There's another one there. Those all have dog bone resistors inside of them. Do they measure off some? So there's a 10K there, it measured 15K, so it's 50% high. So these new resistors are all in here. And I'm starting to replace some of these old caps. These originals, 10 microfarad 50 volt cap. Let's put a new one in there. And I'm curious about some of these old replacement caps. So for example, this blue guy here should be 0.01, good for 600 volts. We got the old solar capacitor bridge out, and guess what? It's showing short. When you rotate this clockwise to the short position and the eye opens, you got a short. We can also check for leakage, and it's leaky at 400. Might even be leaky at 300. Yeah, it's even leaky at 300. So that's got to go. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to start spot checking more and more of these. I suspect the Sprague orange drops will be fine. Not so sure about guys like this. That's like first generation plastic film cap from the 60s. And these little blue guys, I have no clue. Probably polyester film, but I've not seen that particular brand or packaging style before. Got another old electrolytic there and there. Gotta get those two guys out. This is audio stuff over here though, so I'm less concerned about that. But this guy up here, these parts, this is part of the AGC and biasing resistors for the IF stages, so that's pretty important stuff there for image quality. We got our video amp, detector and video amp down here. There's not a whole lot of parts there. These blobs are peaking coils. One dog bone, some coil, but really are no paper caps. They're old plastic film caps, so if there's a problem, I suspect it's going to be up here, not down here. And this stuff, sync circuitry, these big guys here. And there's one thing in particular that's had me really puzzled from the very beginning, is this stuff. So we got a bunch of caps here. We've got this wire nut. This stuff is not in the schematic. Oh, there's a resistor. The cap I'm just testing, one end of it just goes right to a resistor, not a terminal strip. This stuff's not on any schematic that I can find. Not exactly. I went to a newer version of this chassis, which is quite different. Different tube lineup, different layout, but that has retrace suppression. And it got me thinking, This might be a modification somebody did to suppress vertical retrace lines, or maybe it was factory. I don't know, because what I'm puzzled by is this. There's one terminal stripped on. There's one lug on it, and that's where some of these parts go. That's not in the schematic. I can't quite tell if it's fat. Well, let's see. So the factory terminal strips, yeah, it looks like they're like riveted and then soldered to the chassis, or maybe they're just soldered. But this is done with a sheet metal screw. So whoever recapped this way back when may very well have added a vertical retrace suppression circuit. It's tough to trace out. It starts out here and it goes all the way. There's wires that go all the way up there, and all. It seems more complicated than it needs to be. Usually you just pick a signal off of the vertical output transformer, which I believe is this guy, and you just couple it to the brightness control typically. And I believe this does go. So one of these wires in here eventually finds its way to the CRT. I think the cathode on the CRT might be where this green wire goes to. So I think that's what all that's about. I'm just going to go with it as it is. Maybe tinker with it later, but I'm certainly going to replace these bad caps. Hey, much better. Yeah, replacing those out of spec resistors and some bad caps really got the gain back. Alright, the set is playing pretty well. Before I install the full-size CRT, I want to do all the work I need to on this chassis. And the last major thing remaining is to replace these original electrolytics. Might be somewhat controversial with some of you. That, hey, this stuff seems to be working okay. Why bother? I don't ever want to see this set again. I don't ever want to see this chassis again. It's been my experience. These caps are 70 plus years old. They're not going to last forever. I got it in the shop while I got it up while I'm working on it. They're getting replaced. And I've developed a pretty good system for doing that using adapter caps. I just did a whole bunch of RCA chassis, just exactly the same as this. All these caps are mounted on phenolic wafers that are exactly the same size as these guys. All I gotta do is drill out 2 rivets on each one of these, clip out the connections, pop the new caps into these little boards, mount them, wire them up, and we're good to go. And to get these out, I've been using a hand drill because, well, I don't like making a lot of noise and having it potentially slip and chew up wires or anything like that. So let's do this guy. So just 2 sections. Pretty easy. And I'll drill out these rivets so I got a nice titanium coated steel cutting drill bit here. Just going to line it up on that guy. All these rivets are dimpled in, so it's easy enough to get the point of the drill bit in there. And you want to use a drill bit that's a bit larger than these, because we just want to kind of carve out the outer bit of metal there that's flared out. Now, a challenge for me often with filming this stuff is I want to give you a good angle of what I'm doing, but also I need to see what I'm doing. So I think I'm at a good point right here. So get this lined up, and it should just take a few turns while applying moderate pressure. I just want to chew off that outer bit. That's probably enough. And then get a little hammer. I'm going to use a nail set, but also a little screwdriver will do. Let's see what I can find. There we go. Found my nail set. So nail set, a little ball peen hammer. I'm going to put that there, and we're going to. There, it's out. Now we're going to do the other one. I found it sometimes a bit easier to leave the wires connected while I'm doing this. Otherwise, when I knock it out, the cap's going to go flying. And once these are both loose, I can move the cap around and kind of get in there and clip off some of those leads that might be hard to get at. Now, this one's a little bit more of a challenge to drill out because we got this cam dome resistor up here. Worst case scenario, I can do it from the top, or these are phenolic wafer bases. A little bit of pressure, you can snap them off. Not too much trouble. There, I just broke it off. So the cap is completely loose now. But we still do have a rivet here. I do want to reuse that hole, so I do want to get it out of there eventually. I don't think I can drill it out from the bottom without, maybe. See, with that cap loose, I can get a little more play on these wires now. Maybe I can just squeeze in there, do a little bit of an angle. I don't know, we'll see. Drill bit's starting to wander a little. Yeah, let's see if that's enough to tap it out. Yep, oh, alright. There we go. And it's done. It's barely hanging in there still. There we go. Alright, so just I'm gonna either cut or snap off these leads. Sometimes it's easier to wiggle them back and forth. One tool I find handy are some snub nose needle nose pliers, so I can get in here, especially on the lugs on the outer part of the can. And instead of cutting them, just a couple twists back and forth and they snap off. So what you can do with these adapter caps is you can just take the stump of the old lug and just, they have pretty big pads, and just solder the whole remains of the lug onto the new cap rather than trying to undo all the connections of the eyelets and all that stuff. Alright, so I'll cut this lug off. Just one left. And that's that. And it was oriented so that the half moon was up towards the top. There are little symbols on the bottoms of these, and the corresponding on the side. And they're both identical. They're both 40 to 475. Now, if you're really lucky, especially if you want to reuse this stuff, you take this, and sometimes you can just, the cardboard cover will come off. This one's on there a little more securely. But at any rate, so I'll dig up a couple of 47s at 500 volts. And put them on a little board, get it mounted, and then connect it up. Yes, you can get 500 volt caps. Normally I stock 450s. You get 500. There's some Rubicon branded ones. Probably need some United Chemcons, maybe some Michicons. This whole container is just 47 microfarad caps. After doing a bit digging, I found a couple of these Nichicon 47s at 500. They're fatter, they're not the skinny cap kind like this, but there are only 2 caps that need to go on one of these adapter cap boards, so I think it'll be okay. Normally you want 5mm spacing to use these boards, but they have a bunch of holes for the positive side. So the negatives go on the outer edge, and then you've got 4 for the positive. Normally you use the 2 innermost ones, but that's not quite going to make it. But you can use one of the outer ones. Fits no problem. And you want to put it with the logo, the frame, adaptacap.com. That's going to go against the chassis. And if we look at our cap, it was going this way, with the half moon kind of that way. So we'll be oriented like this. So we want to use these 2 cap lugs. So mount it on this side, go like that, go like that, secure it, and we'll do one on this side, mount it, and then hook my wires up underneath. To do it for the other 2. If I didn't pause to record it and all that, I could blow through and do all these in 15 minutes or so. Maybe a little bit longer. So you have to hunt around to find the caps I need, but certainly a lot faster than trying to restuff these or anything. So why would I want to get the cardboard cover off of this? Well, I'll show you one that I have. It's purely for aesthetics. So here's one from an RCA that came off very easily. It's once this is mounted and you got your new caps there and all that, you could put this back over it if you wanted to. Then aside from the lugs looking slightly different than the original one did, you'd never know there were new caps in there. Personally, for my sets, I just leave these open so I could see the caps. I could see if there's an... If it's never happened, but if one were ever to fail, you could see if it vented on the top, and you could get in here and replace them and all that. But otherwise, yeah. Alright, 2 down, 1 to go. Here's how they look on the top side. I'm going to leave you in suspense for now. When we pick up in the next and hopefully final installment on this TV, finish up the recap, put the full-size CRT back in, and do a final run-through, and then start working on the radio. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.